Today's video is going to be way different than anything I've been doing, aside from my initial introduction video, because I figured today I'd bring you into my world a little bit. In the background of some of my videos, you've probably seen my bookshelf. These books are not just for looks. A lot of them are ones I've read and reread, ones that are on my list to read, and ones I keep for reference, so you may even see them come up in a video, if they haven't already. I figured I could just have a laid-back video where I show you what's on the bookshelf behind me and talk about some of my favorite books and series. I'm sure I'll also have a future video where I talk about books I don't have physical copies of, and I'd also love to eventually do videos talking about my favorite TV shows and movies, because not only do I want to share them, but I need new suggestions from other people. Anyway, let's get into the bookshelf. Okay, so first things first, I got this bookshelf at Hobby Lobby for probably around $100, $120, and it's really sturdy and really spacious. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Also, I don't have any bookends and didn't want to buy any, so I really just used anything I had laying around to hold the books up. So you'll see that as we go through. Okay, let's start at the very top. Here, you will see this container of random balls that serve absolutely no purpose. I also have this real plant here that will be dead in no time at all because I kill every plant I own, and I have no idea why. I try so hard, please don't ask. And I also have this very fake plant because I bought it for my desk at work many, many moons ago and had nowhere else to put it. That's how much of my style of decor is, and you'll also see that moving forward. Okay, so on to the next shelf down. Aside from these few pictures here, this is where I keep my non-fiction books. So when I first got this shelf, I had a lot fewer books, so the organization wasn't really what it is today, and as I got more books, it kind of filled itself out. I've read several on this shelf, and the ones on this shelf have probably had the most profound impact on me, as you can probably tell from the titles as you look through them and as I explain some of them. So a few of my favorites on this shelf are Between the World and Me, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, The Blood of Emmett Till, and The Things They Carried. I first read The Things They Carried in high school and have read it at least 2 more times since. So between the way it's written and the actual content, I was hooked from the start and find myself having to reread it every so often. The other 3, Between the World and Me, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and The Blood of Emmett Till, gave me a deeper understanding of things I didn't understand and will never fully understand. So Between the World and Me is especially powerful because it is written in the form of a letter between the writer to his son about what it means to be Black in America. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings and The Blood of Emmett Till gave me insight on things I had maybe slightly only touched on during Black History Month in school. They put events into historical context, which is always important to me, and unexpectedly, they also made me angry, both for what happened then and what's happening now. I'd recommend reading them all. They're really easy to read and very insightful. My next shelf down right here is definitely probably my most read shelf and the one I revisit most often. Here you'll find the Pendragon series, which I've reread probably at least 5 times at this point, and it's what I'll always recommend whenever someone asks for a recommendation of what to read. The series of 10 books follows a teenage traveler named Bobby Pendragon as he travels through space and time. His goal, as well as that of the other travelers, is to save the 10 territories from destruction by the evil Saint Dane. The books are unique in that large parts of them are told via letters from Bobby to his best friends, so you're getting the first-hand experience, thoughts, and feelings of Bobby. So that's a very brief synopsis. I could go on all day because it's so cool to me, but I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a new series to pick up. Also on this shelf are the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings books, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. I'm pretty sure I've only read the books once, but I've rewatched the movies over and over and over. I'm a huge fan of how closely the movies follow the books because that's always something that keeps me hooked with movies. If something strays too far from the book, I'm out. Which brings me to my next series, which is The Mortal Instruments down here on the end. This series is about a group of shadow hunters who fight demons and the evil Valentine. The series follows the main character, Clare, as she's thrown into this world that she knows nothing about and that was hidden from her, so she has to figure everything out after her mom goes missing. This series has a lot of twists and turns, and it's super easy to read and very interesting. This was one of those series when I was reading where I was like, wow, this would make a great movie. And then wouldn't you know it, a movie came out, and then a TV series came out. Unfortunately, I was a little let down by both, unlike with The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, but you can't win them all. The movie actually wasn't that bad, but the TV series, I was not a huge fan of. Here on the end, you'll also see my Hermione Granger wand that I got several years ago from Harry Potter World. It's just holding everything all together there. Moving right along to my next shelf here. For this one, I'm actually going to zoom in so that way I don't have to sit on the floor and explain it. Since there's a lot of books on here, you can't really see it from afar anyway. Okay, so this next shelf is full of a lot more fiction mixed with some authors you've probably already heard of. So my absolute favorite on the shelf, hands down, is Ender's Game. The main premise is that it is humans against buggers. Children are taken from their homes at a young age to be whisked off to battle school to be trained to fight these buggers. Thankfully, the movie adaptation of this book wasn't horrible because this was another one I definitely wanted to see a movie for and was so excited when I saw that they were coming out with one. I also recently read this classic here, 1984. Not sure how I was only just now reading it for the first time, but it was a really interesting read. I can see why it remained so influential throughout time, given the foreshadowing it seems to give about what a society could possibly become. Also on here are some that I read in high school and plan to reread, like Oedipus, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, The Scarlet Letter, To Kill a Mockingbird, Clockwork Orange, and Farenheit 451. I more recently read Farenheit 451, and that's another great dystopian novel if you haven't read it that kind of warns against what society could become. It shows how extreme censorship could become with no checks, as all the books ended up being burned. There are some old classics on here to read like Catch-22, The Old Man and the Sea, A Farewell to Arms, and Uncle Tom's Cabin that I haven't read yet, whether in school or otherwise. There's even a couple Tom Hardy books on here, like The Return of the Native and Mayor of Casterbridge. I also picked up some old classics to eventually work my way through because while I never read them in school, they still interest me and I like to broaden my horizons. So on my list are Sophocles with the Four Tragedies, Voltaire's Candide, and Machiavelli's Prince. So now onto the bottom shelf here, which is a mix because they are all bigger books and this is just where they needed to go. So let me zoom you in and show you what I have. Okay, so on the end here we have this stack of books that are left over from college, like all of these different psychology books here. I kept those because this is stuff I'd want to reread or maybe even reference one day. It's just really interesting and a lot of it can be applied to other areas. Also, I have a couple of Microsoft books up at the top here from the business degree for the same reason. On this shelf is where I also keep the books I have about history, mythology, and folklore. You can see the two Eddas I referenced in the Norse mythology series, a Greek mythology one that'll come in handy later, and a couple folklore and legend books. I also have a couple of random history books because I like random knowledge, especially like you can find in I Used to Know That, because I can read it and then I can do further research into the stuff that interests me. There's also Guns, Germs, and Steel here, which I have not yet read but plan to eventually. I just know it's going to be a huge undertaking, so I just keep putting it off. I also have some really random books like Mystic Places and Cosmic Connections, and we can thank Goodwill for those. Lastly on this shelf is the book called World Order here at the end. I only read part of it when I first got it, so I need to restart it. but it talks about global politics and the four systems of historic world order. Finally, I have these few books that are currently on my nightstand because I'm either already reading them or am about to start reading them. So I have Tess of the Dubervilles, and I started reading this one because of the 4% romantic in me. I'm about halfway through and I have yet to see anything romantic in this novel. I'm also reading Animal Farm and I'm about halfway through this one as well. So as you can see, I'm into these types of books where a lesson can be learned regarding the government. Last but not least, living on my nightstand currently is called Black Like Me. I haven't started reading it yet, but it is what I'm going to be reading soon. This is just another one of those books that I feel will deepen my understanding of things that I do not understand and will never fully understand, but I want to be able to learn as much as I can. I get most of my books either from MacHale's, which is a local huge bookstore, or online at Thrift Books. I also get random ones at Goodwill like you saw at the bottom, or sometimes even some classics if I see them, or sometimes at Amazon if I need something quickly. We have a few local bookstores that I definitely want to support when I'm ready to buy some books again, especially when I'm not able to find them at MacHale's to buy them secondhand. While the selection there is huge, when you're looking for something specific, it's often hit or miss. I've honestly ended up with such a random selection of books from going to different sections of things that interest me, like mythology or folklore or fiction books, and just grabbing things that get my attention, or going to sections of authors that I'd like to read more from. Despite what my nightstand may currently tell you, I try not to read multiple things at once, although I am reading the few on my nightstand and one that's currently on my Kindle. Since I have so many things I've read and so many things I want to read, I use Goodreads online to keep track of what I've read, what I'm reading, and what's on my list to read next. It's also a great way to see what my friends are reading and to easily add what they're reading, if it interests me, to my to-read list so that I can pick it up the next time I'm at MacHale's. If you have any suggestions of what you read or what you are reading that might interest me, send them on over. Whether it's a book or a series, I'm always looking for something new. Despite all of these books that I have to go through, I'll always buy another one. So that's all I have. I hope this was at least somewhat interesting for you. If not, apologies. We'll be back for our regularly scheduled programming in the next video. I'll see you next time.